welcome to All for United. Newcastle today beat us 2-0, but we're still here today to make the best of a bad situation. Sorry for the delay, but at least we showed up, unlike United. Today, we're joined by Barry and John. Once again, how are you guys doing?
I'm delighted. Yeah, what a wonderful world.
Yes, I'm good. So, hopefully we can bounce back in a few next game.
So 2-0 today against Newcastle at St James's Park. What's your guys' first thoughts an hour and a bit after the final whistle's blown? Barry, John, yeah?
Yeah, sorry. I think it was really lackluster performance. In many ways, a strange performance. Traditionally we do tend to be slow coming off international break, usually, aren't we? But for me, Newcastle more up for a thing. Luke Shaw getting into after game, they showed more fight, more passion, more commitment. Again, it was another poor performance, and I'm sure we'll touch upon the form we're in. We're not 1 in 3 in the league, not scored in 3 in the league, and away from home we needs a bit of improvements. And I do think some of the changes that were made, because it was 0-0 after an hour, it wasn't great. But I think some of the substitutes, you could be like, I don't know what I was thinking there, to be honest, but I think it was a poor performance from the team. Only 1 or 2, you might say, showed a bit of fight and that, but yeah, it's worrying, and hope we need to bounce back as soon as possible.
Well, Box agrees with something you've said. Obviously, 3 wins from 9 games in the Premier League in the last 9 games, really. And it's the away form that's really costing us at the moment. Barry, do you have any thoughts, initial thoughts from today?
It was one of those games that was like a non-starter, really, wasn't it? We started the game, and that was about as good as it got. I just started it. It just wasn't ideal. I mean, we've not had the greatest of times and not the greatest of runs. They're not wrong. But I think that particular game, I don't think we rested on our laurels. We knew they were going to be difficult. We knew they were going to be tricky. They had a better goalkeeper in goal, certainly, than they had in the Carabao Cup. Not that he was tested that much. And I just think, we've been a good football team. The international break hasn't helped us in the manner that I think people were hoping it was going to. We lacked the leadership, I think, really, in the middle of the park that we used to having. No Casemiro, no Eriksen. Sabitzer, I thought, did okay. McTominay, okay. And I think this is the problem. It was just okay. Nobody was really there to grab the game by the scruff of the neck. And I think that just made it really difficult for us all the way through. We just never really looked like scoring and getting out of second or third gear, whereas Newcastle were just at us from the start to the end.
It felt today that Newcastle really wanted to make a statement for themselves after the 2-0 defeat in the Carabao Cup, because I know for them, I met a lot of Newcastle fans that day at Wembley, and for them it was obviously a bit of a letdown, the fact that they didn't win that game, and they wanted to prove a point that they could compete with us. They're our equals, and obviously they're contenders for the Champions League places, and they showed that from the first second of the game. I thought St Maximin versus Dalot, again, it was a mismatch in this final. It was another mismatch today as well, coming in for Wan-Bissaka, who was unfortunately missing through illness. How did you think some of our players dealt with St Maximin and obviously Wilcock and Isak, who's been in prolific form in the first half? John, if you want to go first. Mate.
Yeah, I don't think any of our players really did themselves any favours today. I think in the first one in particular, it wasn't just Sam Maximan and Delo. It was also, Shaw and, winger there in the first half, and because there was a bit of promise. I don't think they was supported that well by, Anthony with Delo and, Rashford with sure. So I don't think we were compact enough, and they had so many opportunities. Newcastle, they won 2-0. They could have easily had 4 or 5. With Willock, a guy shooting boots on the first half and that. And I just think we didn't deal with it, and you're crushing the goalkeeper, and that in terms of we've allowed them to score 2 goals in the middle of the 6-yard box, and it's it's awful, and I just think that it does raise some question marks still. I think Wan-Bissaka was a big miss. I'm not the Lowe's biggest fan personally. I don't think he can defend that well, and he makes a lot of silly challenges at times. And I just think they were always a threat down there. And I just think the midfield didn't get a grip of the game, and our forwards weren't up to it tonight when they did have the opportunities. So just lacklustre throughout.
No, absolutely. Do you have anything to add, Barry, on the defence in the first half performance, really?
Well, I think actually at half time I was amazingly not too worried. This is the thing. I think Ten Hag has instilled in us now a bit more confidence in his decision making, the way in which the team are able to sort of turn themselves around if they've had a pretty naff 45 minutes or a poor period of play. And we were holding our own. Yes, Newcastle had chances. There was none that really, really stood out as being fabulous. It's interesting you put this Weghorst one up, because I missed the first 5 minutes just getting back from the Stevenage game that I was at, and I heard on the radio that Anthony had put a ball across and Weghorst had stuck it over the bar, and that sounds like that was the best chance of the half for us. Newcastle certainly had the best chance of the half just beforehand, before the half ended, but there was just there didn't seem to be too much to worry about. I really did hope that Ten Hag was going to turn it around. I think the big problem for me was it didn't. It didn't change. Immediately in the second half, Newcastle were doing exactly what they were doing in the first half. They were attacking. They were getting the 50-50 balls. They were getting the second balls. They just seemed to have everything. And we had a few moments where we got forward, but none that were too decisive. I'm sure we'll talk about whether or not we should have got a penalty for Bruno. I can't be convinced it was. You see some stills that help. The bit that got me there was that he gave a goal kick. It's like, well, if it's a goal kick, then obviously Bruno got the ball first, in which case he must have taken the player and not the ball. And I can't understand how the ref can argue with that. But there you go. It's nothing unusual for us not to be able to get a penalty at the moment. So it was just one of those poor days at the office, really. The bench wasn't at its strongest in terms of how we could change things. And I just think on this one, I suppose you've got to give the credit, I think, to Eddie Howe, because he's come back, sort of regathered himself and his team and his troops, and amazingly did a pretty fantastic job in turning it around from the Carabao Cup game. And it hurts to say it, but I think he did a good job.
Yeah, I think with Eddie Howe today in Newcastle, I think no one can argue. I don't think even the most deluded of people can argue they weren't good for those 3 points, because, they were honest from start to finish. They controlled the tempo of the game, and I felt De Gea made a really good stop in the first, double save in the first half to keep us at 0-0. And obviously in an attacking sense, there is a question here from Bax in regards to Weghorst, which says Weghorst seems to back out challenges, whether going for headers or pressing the keeper or running, but no commitment. With Weghorst, he must be the tallest player I've ever seen not win headers, and it's a shame really, because he gets in good positions quite a lot, but obviously, as much as we can talk about the defence for letting in the 2 goals, obviously we have to talk about the attack and the midfield for not producing any real momentum, any real challenges, or any threat at Nick Pope's goal. But how did you think the attack, the midfield and the attack did today, John?
Well, there was no real rhythm, and I just think that obviously you touched on the Burnham Anthony battle. I think that was quite an interesting one. There were times Burn, won it from Anthony. There were times when Anthony, outskilled him and that. I do honestly think it was a mistake taken, and I know it wasn't like great, but I think every one of our forward players, he was probably the one who was most likely to do something, maybe. And it obviously had that shot in the first half, and he had our only shot on the target. I think Begos, and even he had Begos didn't he? In the first half, and Begos hit the side net and it post. It's all, why on earth is he not going across the keeper?
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. So for me, I think Ten Hag, you got to question some of his substitutions and all that. Like bringing on, like Varane, bringing off Varane, Marte, putting Lindelof on, and then going, all forwards on the pitch. It felt towards the end. I just didn't get that. But for me, the link-up play, there was a couple of nice moments with Delo and Anthony. There was one where Anthony flicked it and Delo went forward and he crossed it in and that. I think Bruno was, I agree with Barry, and it's either a corner or a penalty that, but you can say we weren't good enough for the win or the result or anything. But for me, it's like, it's either a corner or a penalty, and he gave a goal kick, so I don't get that. But sometimes you run out of luck, don't you? And you look at instance, like you tend to get decisions when things are going for you, I think.
Yeah.
And when you're playing well, when you're picking up results now that we've hit a bit of a bad patch in the league and that, it just feels that it feels like things are going against you almost. And I think it's massively important we get, Wednesday. Forget all our results this season. Wednesday's the biggest game of the season. It should be treated that way and that. And I think the players, we just need to, as easy as to say it, we need to get a goal, don't we? Not scoring in between that. And those that will stack up. So for me, but the blessing is we tend to be good at home usually. So I hope that we can get a result, but there needs to be better forward play, amongst our players now. And I think Casemiro was a big miss as well, for me. No. I think he makes everyone around him better and you get more service. I think McTominay and Sabitzer didn't really do that. So Sabitzer did okay, but I think, you're limiting yourself if Casemiro isn't playing, and Eriksen.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. For me, it wasn't a stonewall penalty, as one of the previous comments said, but it weren't definitely not a goal kick in my opinion. But that was one of the only real highlights from that first half. Barry, do you have any comments on United's attacking threat in that first half?
I'm sorry, there is none. I feel like anyone who watches the Women's Channel, anyone who has seen me on here will know that I am probably the most positive person when it comes to life and football that you will ever meet. I try and find the positives in every situation. But I'm sorry, Wout Weghorst, it's like he's won a competition.
Yeah.
Because I don't see what he brings. I know that he tries hard. He works. I could try hard. I could work hard. I could give 100% of everything I've got. It still wouldn't be as good as him. But I can't. I can't anymore. I don't know how this guy is starting matches. Just stick Rashford centre forward if you have to. Stick Pellistri in at left wing. Give Sancho a run of games. Do something because it's not working. It's not working. The guy can't hit a barn door with a banjo. And it is really frustrating every single week. I know he didn't have a huge amount of chances. There was a stat that popped up on about 55 minutes that blew my mind. It was the amount of touches players had had. 7. And Weghorst had 7. Yeah. And just after him, with 15, was Pope, the goalkeeper, who, by the way, had barely touched the ball because we'd only had about 3 shots off target. We hadn't even had a shot on target at that point. So it's like, where's he getting all these touches from? I just find this, I can't, I absolutely cannot. he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be leading our line. He just shouldn't be. I think we've given him enough time now. Weghorst isn't the answer. He's not the answer, and I'm not even convinced what the question was. I mean, if the question is, does he wipe his little socks off? Then the answer is yes. If you're asking for who shows the most passion, perhaps in a match, it could be him, but he's not the answer. And I'm sorry. Start Martial, do something different, because I can't take much more of him up front. I'm like, he can't do it. He just can't. I'm stumbling over my words. But am I wrong, John? He can't, can he?
No,
he just can't.
No,
He's
I
not.
agree with you. I agree with you.
The only thing he brings is that when the opponents have the ball, he does press. That's the only thing that you might consider him for. But I think Martial can do that. So the only issue is Martial keeps getting injured. That's the problem, so you can't rely on Martial starting every game. So we're going to go back to starting Weghorst anyway. But I agree, his role's very limited. And it goes back to that chance in the first half. I think when Anthony slid him in, he's like hits in the near post. It's like, and you just like, what is that? Anyone knows to go across the goalkeeper there, don't you? And it's a big chance. You got to, finish those. If you're not giving them the service and that, and he doesn't hold up the play, he didn't hold up the ball either, so it's kind of like, he's not a natural mover, is he? He reminds me a little bit, Peter Crouch, because he wasn't like a natural mover almost. Yeah, not in terms of like how Crouch played, but in terms of like not natural movement, anything than that. And for me, it's almost like he's snatching at shots when he's shooting and that. And unfortunately, he's just not a prolific finisher. And if you're not going to get much service when you do get it, you got to do better with it. So, but ultimately, the team didn't play well. They didn't get much service and that. And it wasn't the only bad player. Rashford didn't do anything today, did he? So it's kind of like quite a few places are dropping after that performance. But, I don't think Weghorst he's good at running around and all that, maybe being a bit of a nuisance, but in terms of his general ability, you need better, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think Weghorst's best ability is his availability. And that's not a knock on Weghorst. I'm sure he's a good guy. He comes across as someone who's really proud to play for United, and you can see what it means for him. But Neville said it perfectly in Sky Sports earlier during the live commentary. He's just not at that level, you know what I mean? And it's evident. I've watched him play so many times now. And I think, both Barry and John and myself, we all agree that at some point you've kind of got to cut the reins and try something else, because if the method of madness is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It's just, he's not really been... Go on, John.
I actually think the best thing to do is if you can start Martial, maybe play him for an hour and then maybe put Weghorst on, for the remaining. Because I actually think if you're looking for a goal and you're pressing for chance, that you never know, he might be more useful that way, perhaps towards the end of the game rather than starting. So I think if it's possible, if Martial can stay fit, that's possibly the way you might get some use out of him, possibly. So, but yeah, like you say, it's his general availability, and it's like Martial's got a lot more time, but he's hardly ever available. And Weghorst hasn't got natural ability, but he is available. So I think we are better for having him than if we didn't get him. But his game's pretty limited.
I think the winter transfer market kind of limited us in the sense of who we could have got, obviously with the situation going on with United at the moment. But Weghorst obviously isn't the ideal option, United going forward. But obviously, as Box says here, I don't know if this is entirely true, but I know he started the majority of the games since being at United. Ten Hag obviously has a lot of faith in him to do a job, or maybe it's just the fact he's really the only realistic option you can have. I know a couple of people said, obviously Finn and another person, Box, both said that they'd like McTominay to have a forward role akin to what he does at Scotland. Obviously, the international game and the domestic game is a completely club level game. It's a completely different sort of kettle of fish. I don't know doing that right now when there's so much to contend for would be the right option, but at some point maybe it's something that we will have to consider.
You know what? Genuinely, we said on Friday in our briefest of Newcastle previews, somebody actually said stick Weghorst in midfield because his work rate is good. He can go and hassle people and he can go and win a ball. And actually, I would not have been against that idea. I mean, don't get me wrong. Could you imagine the absolute meltdown on Twitter? If Eric Ten Hag had named the side with Weghorst in the central mid and McTominay up front with Martial on the bench, I mean, don't get me wrong, that definitely would have been a sight to behold. But I don't disagree. I think McTominay must have a better goals to shot ratio than Weghorst. You know, he scored some cracking goals, a couple against Leeds that I remember from last season that were just, amazing. The guy can do it. I don't know. I don't know what else I can say on him, really. It's just, it's so annoying. I'd rather give the youth a chance. I'd just do something. And I know that we're in a dangerous situation at the moment because we could slip away from top four, but equally, he ain't it. He's not scoring. He's had 2 so far, and let's not forget the second one was a scruffy one off the shin. It wasn't, I mean, he didn't even mean it. I mean, obviously he meant it to go towards the goal, but he didn't hit it properly. So, and yes, Fellaini, absolutely. He was the same, but he would score.
With Martial, obviously, Martial came back today for a cameo of around just under half an hour today. You know, he did have some exciting moments. He looked exciting. He blocked a great effort off the line. He built up the play, and we had a half chance from that. And he had one shot on top, one of our very few shots on target today. I think with Martial, obviously, besides the fact he's injury prone, so Finn asks why is Martial wearing gloves in April? I will never know. And someone else asked it too with Varane. It must be a French thing. But in regards to obviously Martial, I do think that potentially Martial being fit will bring back Weghorst as an option off the bench, as John said previously. I do think ultimately that's something that Ten Hag will end up doing, because ultimately Ten Hag Weghorst isn't bringing the goals that we desperately need at the moment. And, you know, it's happened before where players have gone as a striker. Like, look at Joe Linton at Newcastle, started as a striker for Newcastle. Now he plays more in the midfield area because his work rate and he retains the possession quite well, holds the ball up. And I'm not saying that Weghorst is an elite player, but I do think he has, does hold up the ball quite well. And it is an option for us at the current moment in time. Finn also mentioned Yaya Toure started in a defensive midfield role and showed himself to be an attacking player. Brilliant player. Obviously not a United player, but a great player nonetheless. At half-time, obviously, I thought defensively we were quite well. And, even though De Gea made a couple of saves, 0-0 at half-time, could have come out and changed complexion in the second half, which unfortunately didn't happen today. It was the same old story as the first half. And we ended up falling behind for a Wilcock goal, I believe. It's Wilcock for the first goal. Was it coming?
Yes. It was.
Yeah, it was coming. And it's hard to find the positives today in regards to second half because it just felt like nothing changed. It felt like 90 minutes of the same old thing.
Well, we had a shot on target, didn't we?
Yeah, from Anthony, that I'm pretty sure wasn't meant to be a shot.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, their goal, a mate of mine said, was it a good goal? And I said, I didn't think it was. And I heard Gary Neville waxing lyrical about how it was excellent. I mean, the endeavour was good. They worked hard, but nobody should be winning a header within the 6-yard box to tap it in home in the manner that they did. It was not good. It wasn't good. And, I mean, the ball gets crossed in from the right, goes all the way to the left-hand side. They get another chance at crossing it in before it's headed in, like I say, within the 6-yard box. And that's criminal, really. That shouldn't be allowed to happen. But it was coming because Newcastle were just pushing forward. And we just didn't seem to have what we needed. And as far as the second goal went, Luke Shaw giving away a free kick. I mean, I think he's definitely earned his new contract, but there was no need for that. You know, he's nowhere near the goal. He's right near the edge of the pitch, and it's just a silly free kick to give away. And again, from the free kick, we managed to concede again, and it's just not. I mean, they're both very avoidable goals. I think that's what will frustrate Ten Hag and the players more than anything else, is that they absolutely were avoidable. But I think for me, the most frustrating thing was just that we didn't create anything. We had the ball in forward positions, but we didn't really ever look like we were going to break the deadlock. We had one shot, I think, that was deflected wide that looked like it was going to loop into the corner, which would have been a bit of a lucky way to equalise. I think as soon as 2-0 came down, that was it. You know, the boys were ready to throw the towel in at that point, and I think the last time we threw the towel in was Liverpool, really, and we were lucky we didn't end up with it being 3 or 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, after we went 1-0 down, Ten Hag went for broke and made a huge gamble, bringing on players like Martial, Sancho, Pillistri, Fred, and Lindelof, surprisingly, in a defensive role. Obviously, Ten Hag has gotten a lot of plaudits at United since coming to the club, and rightly so. Obviously, winning our first trophy in over half a decade, but it was a weird kind of go for broke in the sense of obviously leaving us frailties at the back, which led to the second goal. Did you think of anything of the cameos today in regards to substitutes that came onto the pitch?
Well, I think Martial did reasonably well when he came on. We didn't obviously have many opportunities and that, but I thought he brought a bit of, we spoke about how their goals play. At least with Martial, we had a bit of presence up top, and he was linking up the play and all that, trying to get plays. And he had that shot which took a deflection, it just bounced wide for the corner, didn't it? And for me, he did play. We did improve a little bit after he came on, and we did have a few opportunities to get a few cross in and that. So I think he did okay when he came on. And like I say, I wouldn't have taken Anthony off. I would have maybe just taken Vegas off and put Martial up top to begin with, and then if nothing happened, then maybe try, putting Pellistri on the right or something, and then. But I think also regarding the substitutes, like those 3 substitutes, like taking Varane and Martinez off, and putting Lindelof on, I mean, he didn't even consider Maguire, did he? And I just think it's ironic that Callum Wilson's goal, who was marking him, Lindelof, and all that. So for me, it was just strange that if you had 2 centre halves on, they might not have got that goal, and it's still 1-0 with a few minutes left, and then you look at it from that. So arguably, you could say that changed, perhaps, impacted the game because it made it 2-0. And for me, I think it just didn't make any sense what he was trying to do, and that I felt. But it is what it is. You can't continue to moan about it. It's happened, and I just hope that we can bounce back now. We need to get a win, need to get a goal from somewhere, and then hopefully, we're a bit of a blip. I'm sure as soon as we win a game, we'll probably win 2 or 3 in a row. I'm not too concerned about. I thought it is a bit worrying, but I think as soon as you get one, I think most of our games are at home, in the running and that. So I think we got about 5 away. I think Tottenham and
Brighton.
Brighton are the main difficult ones, but you look at Newcastle gone above us today. I think Arsenal, Tottenham, they still have to go. St James's, so it's like Tottenham have still got to play United and Newcastle. We've only got to play Tottenham and Chelsea, and we do have like Brighton and even Fulham the last day. But for me, I'm not too worried at this moment. But hopefully, as soon as we get a win, I think we'll begin to settle down and get 2 or 3 in a row. But it is concerning.
It's mad, does anybody remember when our away form, and it wasn't all that long ago, was the best bit about our game under Ollie? I think we had an entire season, didn't we, where we just didn't lose a game away from home. It was absolutely unreal, and now it's just gone completely about turn. and it's not been ideal. But I think you've also got to look at the bench and the options that Eric had. Obviously his first two substitutions were to bring on Martial for Weghorst, which I think everyone will agree was not before time. The Sancho for Anthony one I think was interesting, because Anthony, I think, was probably our most attacking player and the biggest threat to the Newcastle back four. I know he was having a bit of a tussle with Byrne, which was a little bit like watching me against any grown adult in terms of height difference there, because it was quite something. But I think you can't argue with those. Those are two substitutions that might change you a game, because they're attacking and the front line's not working. It's not firing all cylinders. To me, that made complete sense. The interesting one was Fred coming on from McTominay with like 8 minutes to go. Should Fred have started? I don't know. Possibly. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but maybe we missed a player. Knocking these players off their stride before they could get into the box and sort of getting in amongst them in that respect. So Fred was one who maybe could have come on a bit earlier and might have had a bit of a difference. John's right in terms of the defence. It was a bit odd. It was a bit weird seeing what had happened. But when you think about it, he's just gone to a back three, really, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Which makes complete sense, because we're trying to push forward and we need to get some goals. What I find just that is so annoying, because I've had him on my prediction league to be sacked for absolutely ages. And annoyingly, even if I had put him this weekend, Moyes would have beaten him to it. So just another reason to hate Chelsea, really, all of that, isn't it?
Well, yeah. It's a strange one, really. Obviously, we're a United channel, but Graham Potter being gone obviously changes a lot of complexion for Chelsea. I think top four ambitions are out the window now for them. But obviously, the managerial roundabout continues. And you are right. I had Potter going a few weeks ago, to be fair, with obviously Chelsea's gung-ho style of manager changing. But going back to obviously the United game today.
Sorry, what I was finishing off there with that was that once you've made that defensive change / attacking one, there wasn't really that many other options that you could have brought on. He brought on Pellistri, obviously, as well, which was quite helpful. But he didn't have any other attacking options. Like, Pellistri is still young. He doesn't have the ability necessarily to change a game at this moment in time. Jadon Sancho is still trying to, find some type of form. Fred is not really a game changer as such. And Martial is just back from injury. Harry Maguire's not going to make a change. Jack Butland's not going to make a change. Nathan Bishop isn't really going to make a difference. And neither is Malacia. And I think it's interesting, because I was having a chat on Twitter not so long ago, and it was about this exact thing. It's like, we've got a good first 11. Our strength in depth isn't quite there yet. And having had the likes of Casemiro and our midfield obliterated in the manner it has been, it was perhaps just a matter of time. So that was a real shame. It's really nice to see that we've got a Newcastle fan coming to join us. I'm glad you're happy, Liam. Show us your trophies, mate. Show us your trophies. How many you got this season?
I mean, to be fair, I think this is a valid question, even though he put a comment before, which I won't display. Was Rashford even on the pitch? I think Rashford, for me today, was just
he
was, but he didn't really do much. I don't think anyone really did much in our attacking line today. It's a strange one. Obviously, Rashford coming back from injury in inverted commas, but. It was not a good day at the office for any of our team today. Obviously, going forward, we've put ourselves in a top four dogfight where it looked kind of conclusive that we'd be really comfortable in that situation now. With Tottenham playing Everton tomorrow night, if Tottenham do beat Everton, we go out the top four. Obviously, bear in mind that we do have the couple of games in hand.
Might we if they draw as well?
I don't think it's a draw. I think it's only a win. If I don't have the Premier League table handy to me, if you just bear me 2 seconds, I'll be able to find out for you. I think
I was superior.
You are right.
Yeah,
even with a draw. I mean, the only one Bruno worth talking about is Bruno G, according to Liam. I mean,
He related to Ali.
Ali G. So Bruno Gomes for me was my, if I was going to choose a man of the match, I know we usually do a man of the match poll, but I think there's very limited options who we could really vote for today. I mean, there's probably De Gea could be in with a shout for a couple of saves, albeit obviously there's a few question marks regarding the distribution once again, which we won't go through that debate.
RP Fields in the comments, he's had one or two things to say about David De Gea today, and I just want to say, you know, Liam obviously wasn't here from the start of the podcast. We said it. Newcastle were the better side today. Newcastle 100%. They were 100% the better side. We didn't show up, and they absolutely performed well. Having said that, I just take over ever so slightly there in terms of what Vincent just put. That was Newcastle's cup final today. Well, perhaps they should have showed up at the last one, and then they would have had the trophy, but they didn't. And that's one of the things to mention. But I can't argue. I've got absolutely no dramas with Liam popping himself in here and sort of giving it large, because they were a much better side than we took on in the Carabao Cup. And I've been positive about Newcastle, even on Friday night. Before that, I've been a fan of Eddie Howe for a long time. He has clearly shown he knows what he's talking about. He was doing a fantastic job at Bournemouth before he was kicked out of there. And he's just showing what a good manager he actually is. So, I have zero problems bigging up Newcastle in terms of how they perform, because I do believe they've got a great manager, and it's nice for them to have something good going on. But let's be absolutely clear, for us, we weren't at the races today. If we performed the way that we've been performing all season, I think it would have been a much, much closer game. But Newcastle were all over us. I mean, there was that bit that, was it Finn who put it about he hasn't seen butter spread on toast the way that Dallo was being spread about by Alan St. Maximin. Listen, it was atrocious. It was abysmal. For me, the worst match that I've seen under Eric Ten Hag all season. But they're going to come. These sort of matches will happen. You can't just go around slapping everybody and winning all the time. It's physically impossible. So it's frustrating, I think, more than anything else, because we were all celebrating, weren't we? Rashford's got a knock. Maybe he really did have a knock. Maybe he genuinely did have a knock, and that was why he didn't go to the England camp. And as a result, if he's coming off the back of that, we all know what it's like when you're doing that. We've seen Rashford when he's injured, and he pretty much performed the way that he performed today. So, I don't know, but limited options. And I think that's the problem at the moment. It's limited options. And unless you're going to put your faith in the youth, what can you do?
Just before we move on, just wanted to add Vincent's comment. Is it true that you're in the hat for the running for the Chelsea job? I think everyone is at this point. I think my number might be called at some point.
I'd love to give that exclusive right now. I'm in talks with my agent, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be a negative, because I've just not got enough time, I'm afraid. I think I'm washing my hair on interview day.
Brilliant. Liam just added, just banter, man. If it isn't news, it just makes the interesting at the top of the table, which I do agree. It makes the top four very exciting now.
Yeah, you're entitled to give it, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, St. Maximin was quality today. Yeah, he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. Someone put, obviously, just going back to Chelsea's very quickly, Steve Bruce is the only man that can save them now.
What about Sam?
That was big Sam. Got to be big Sam. But obviously, we haven't done a poll today because obviously there's very limited options in regards to who the man of the match could be. But if we could talk about any player today that you think maybe could leave with some praise going from the northeast, coming back from the northeast of England, who would you give it to today if there was any praise?
Well, like I said, I think Martial did okay when he came on.
Yeah.
It looked like there was a bit more link-up play when he came on, and that didn't have many chances, but at least he was passing it around and that kind of thing. They looked lively, and I think Anthony at times did show a bit of promise. I think it was a good battle between him and Dan Burn. There were times when, Burns got the best of him. There were times Anthony got the best of him, and I think it's, like I say, if anything, anyone was going to produce anything for us today, like a goal or a chance, something, Anthony was probably the most likely, which for me made it strange why he took him off and that. But it is what it is, So I think those are the only two I'd say. I mean, De Gea, like you say, did make a couple good saves, but then 2 goals from headers inside the 6-yard box. And that's the other thing with the first goal with Newcastle. It's like, how on earth did they have 2 players at the back post unmarked?
Yeah,
it's ludicrous. It really is. And but you gotta move on, and just get on with it.
I think for me, Anthony, he was the only one who looked like he was going to create something. Had a couple of good crosses in that, could have potentially been turned in if we'd pushed ourselves a bit more and got ourselves in behind the defence a bit better. To be honest, I think he deserved man of the match just because, and I recorded it. I actually rewound the match and recorded it because I've never seen it before. John might have seen it because I put it in the chat that he's in, but he actually used his left foot today. I've got video evidence. No, he used his left foot.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah. So. Absolutely amazing. So have a little, you're right, isn't it? It is his right foot. So no, take it away from him. I've completely gone wrong here. It's just,
I saw it.
Ignore me, I've had too much iron brew.
He's scored a few Willies with his left this season. He's
waiting for that right foot.
But it was funny. Yeah, I agree with you. So, yeah.
Just before we move away from the Newcastle game and talk briefly in regards to obviously the next game on Wednesday, the game's coming thick and fast. Just obviously in regards to Trippier, once again, great player. We could talk about Newcastle. I'd rather talk about Newcastle today than United because there's not a lot of positives to talk about from today. But yes, Anthony is left-footed. And
yeah, I was getting all excited about that because obviously you expect just ignore me, move on as quickly as we possibly can. But no, Trippier, he's been a good defender for a while, but I don't particularly like him as much. So yeah, not a big fan of Kieran Trippier.
Connor's had a mare as well. Newcastle.
Connor has more mares than I have, and I can eat burgers. I kind of think people in glass houses shouldn't be throwing stones.
But obviously, just before we move on, just to talk briefly about the Brentford game, obviously the away form is something that is kind of becoming a little bit more alarming now, something that's been a little bit more evident. I know the results, especially against the top sides in the Premier League, they've been very heavy defeats in regards to, say, for example, Man City, Liverpool today, Brentford this season, all these games where Arsenal as well, that was a lot of a closer game. But in respects of, obviously, it seems that when we go to bigger teams in an away setting, it seems not to go in our favour. Do you think it's a mentality thing, or do you think it's just a mixture of a lot of variables that are happening at the moment?
I think you've got to look at the mentality because I think that's our 6th away loss this season. Yeah. They got all the stats, and as we know, there's been some thumpings in there. Our goal difference away from home is -12. Just think about that. And the games we have won away, I think we might have won more away than what we've lost. But when we're away, it tends to be by a goal. I think Leeds was the only game this season where we won away, scored by more than one goal. Like we beat them 2-0, and every other game is like 1-0 or 2-1. You're not really. And when you lose like 4-0, 7-0, 6-3, 2-0, 3-1, it is bad that our goal difference is down to +4 now. It was +13 before the Liverpool game. That's coming down now. We need to start scoring goals again and that. And but I do think it's a mentality problem. I think it was bound to, because obviously we were so bad last season. I don't think Ten Hag was going to solve all of our problems this season. We were still going to get some bad results, particularly away from home. As we look to Brentford game, thankfully our home form has been good. So, you're right, we've struggled against the bigger teams away from home, but obviously at home we're practically beating everybody.
Yeah.
I think we've only lost to Brighton and obviously Real Sociedad. So, yes, it is a bit concerning because Brentford are a really good team. I mean, that was a brilliant game yesterday between Brighton and Brentford 3-3. So, it's worrying. And Brentford can come to Old Trafford and get a result. But hopefully, if we don't have a player sent off, our home form's pretty good. So hopefully we can get a result.
Yeah. So obviously Brentford, they're 6th, 7th in the league at the moment. Obviously they're coming back. We've got to get some payback after the 4-0 drubbing that we got at the start of the season, and obviously give a response back. But like you said, John, I think Old Trafford's the perfect place for this game. We're a lot better at home than we are away at the moment. Obviously Liam Brown has just said as well, fair play, guys. Love it. But in that respect, it's going to be an interesting game. Barry?
I think so. I think when you talk about the away form, I mean, let's not forget we won our last away game because it was the match against Betis, wasn't it? After we'd had a 4-1 drubbing of them at home. So, we did win that one. Obviously, you had the Liverpool game, which was, no fun whatsoever. But the reason why the away form, I think, is going to be mentioned, we forget that we had like 5 or 6 games on the trot. Sorry, 4 games on the trot as we went from February into March. But we drew with Barcelona away from home, 2-2, which a lot of people would take, considering how good they generally are. We beat Leeds 2-0. So we beat Nottingham Forest in the semi-final of the League Cup as well, 3-0. So after that, you have to go all the way back to the 22nd of January, which was our game against Arsenal, which we lost 3-2. So I know that we're saying that the away form's bad, but it's just the away form in the Premier League, and we've just had a lot of home games that have sort of come in, plus a lot of other cup games. So I think it's really very easy to take these statistics as if they mean something. But actually, as you can just see, I've run through most of our away games in 2023. There's not that many of them, really. So I think it can be an alarming statistic, but, there's lies, damn lies in statistics, aren't there? You can make statistics out of anything you want. I mean, we had better possession than Newcastle today. You could start arguing that because we had better possession, we were the better team. Just looking at the statistics, it would be so easy to try and come up with that, but it just wasn't the facts. And so, that's the away game myth. But with regards to Brentford, that's massive. And Brentford, let's not forget, was the turning point for our season. That 4-0 loss, the way that Eric Ten Hag took them in afterwards and went, that's unacceptable. And this is going to be the stuff of folklore, in 4 or 5 years' time when he's won us the quadruple and everybody's saying Pep who, when all of that jazz is finally happening, we're going to look back at that game against Brentford and we're going to be able to talk about how Eric Ten Hag showed his leadership right there. There's managers and then there's leaders. He could have managed that team by making them run within an inch of their life because of the fact they didn't do it against Brentford. And he did. He said that. You are going to run. I'm going to show you this is what you should have done. They ran, I think it was 16 kilometres or something like that. So you're going to run.
Yeah.
30. Right. They should have run.
They should have run 16, yeah.
But they stopped at 13. Okay.
He did at that run as well, yeah.
So that's my point. He said he was going to do that, but then he went, and I'll do it with you because we win as a team and we lose as a team. And I really do. I admire the way that he did that because I was all for it. I'm like, yeah, that's it, Eric. Send them off, make them run. They need to do better. And then he did it with them. And I've got to be honest, in my head, I'm thinking, you shouldn't have done that. But actually, in hindsight, he was absolutely spot on. It was the right thing to do. And it created an environment and a culture within the club of we're all accountable for this. What happens to you happens to me. It's us all together. And we've not had that at Manchester United. Ironically, Manchester United hasn't been united for quite a while. And it is now. And I really like that. So I'm hopeful that he'll remind them of that moment and how we responded from that defeat against Brentford. hopefully will go and respond against this defeat from Newcastle into the Brentford game. And I can't see any reason why not. I've got complete trust in Ten Hag. We're all going to make mistakes. Did he make a mistake with the starting lineup? Maybe so. But think how many conversations we had about who was going to go in the midfield, who's going to start where, what are you going to do? Easy.
No, absolutely. Obviously, just before we go on to the next topic, United fans would have snatched your arm off for any trophy in a top 4 finish at the start of the season, and that's still very possible. Absolutely, Finn. I think you're spot on with that comment. I think we've got to look on the bright side of the situation. Obviously, compared to last season, how bad it was, and you take the good with the bad. Obviously, it's a work in progress, this United team. This isn't the finished product. I don't think we'll see the finished product for a season or two, which is fair enough. And obviously, I think we need to accept that even though we can't accept these performances, they are going to ultimately happen at some point. Obviously, Casemiro being a big miss today in the midfield, and also the other variables that go into it. And I do think Ten Hag is the man that is going to change the whole ethos of this United team going forward. And I expect to see a response on Wednesday. Just before we obviously end the stream today, in regards to obviously Brentford on Wednesday, would there be any changes for you guys in regards to obviously personnel? What would you say the starting lineup this?
I'm happy with Weghorst up front.
I'm sorry, what?
April 14th.
Weghorst should be playing sweeper in the dressing rooms.
I will if it's possible. It depends on his fitness and all that, but I reckon if he is fit enough, maybe you can start Martial and play him for an hour, maybe. But obviously, we don't know where his fitness is up to. So, I'd like to see that, and maybe start Fred as well, midfield possibly. I think he was a miss, not starting him or bringing him on sooner. I thought that was another mistake possibly, but I will glad to see Fred play. Brings a bit of tenacity to the midfield and that. I'll go with Fred and Sabitzer personally, and then that's what I consider doing.
I feel like Ten Hag's the sort of guy, don't forget, after the Liverpool game, he put out the exact same squad and told them to go and make it right. I almost feel like that's exactly the sort of thing that he'll do again, but I kind of hope he doesn't. I think the back five is the back five. De Gea is going to start. You're probably going to see Shaw / Malacia. Depends on whether he wants to rotate there or not. Not expecting to see Wan-Bissaka back.
Yeah, possibly if he's better, maybe.
Exactly. So we've got that. You might see Wan-Bissaka, but I still think it'll be Dalot, Martinez, and Varane. Don't expect too much of a change there. I'd expect to be seeing Sabitzer alongside Fred. Not because I'm particularly against Scott McTominay, but I think Fred can consider himself unlucky not to have been put ahead of Scott today. Bruno will still go there, but for me, put Rashford centre forward. Put him there. Stick Jadon Sancho out on the left, keep Anthony out on the right, and to me, those would be the big changes that I think I would want to make. And I think that's it for me. Do that.
Absolutely. I think for me personally, I agree pretty much with everything that you've just said. I think obviously I don't want to get into a debate because this isn't a debate. This is a match reaction. Obviously, in regards to say Dalot and Wan-Bissaka, I do think Wan-Bissaka these last few since the World Cup, I think he's been better than Dalot. I think his attacking game's improved so much. I think defensively he's better. I know there's still some question marks. He has some frailties in his game, and I know Dalot has a better cross and he's better passer of the ball. But for me, I think Wan-Bissaka's tenacity right now is quite an understated part of this United team, and I think it's done a lot of favours in certain games. Obviously, against St. Maximin today, who was brilliant against Dalot. I don't think that situation happens with Wan-Bissaka at right back. But obviously, we can't live in if buts or maybes. We have to live in the present. But John does agree with you as well. Fred and Sabitzer on Wednesday and Rashford up front. And I think I'll be surprised if he sticks with the same midfield. Obviously, Brentford have a lot of threat as well with Ivan Toney still playing, Pontius doing brilliant as well, Janssen. There's some good players in that Brentford team that I know we've had brilliant.
And Bueno
yeah as well.
Bueno and Norgard.
Norgard, yeah, absolutely, and Raya in goal, who we've been linked with in the press recently.
Mm. Yeah.
It'll be a very interesting game, and even though our home form has been excellent this season, Brentford, I think one of you guys said it's one of our most important games of the season. I completely concur with you. I think Wednesday, we show a statement, we show a response. I think Paul's just said a couple of things, obviously, just in regards to the game today. Yes, we are in a good position, and I accept we will lose games, but you should never lose a game on effort. Absolutely, that's not the United way at all. Mm. And he also agreed with my point that Dalot has dropped off a little bit since the beginning of the season. I think he's had a couple of injuries as well. I don't want to make excuses for Dalot, but I think since the World Cup he's had an injury, and I don't think he's got the form that he had beforehand since. But yeah, do you guys? I don't know if there's a preview show before the Brentford game on Wednesday. I'm not too sure about it, but if you guys were going to make a score prediction today, what would you see the scoreline being?
3-1 United.
I'll go 2-1.
I'll say 1-0 United. I think it'll be a very tight game. I can see it being a goal in it. I just think right now, I'll take anything. I do agree. I don't think Weghorst will start on Wednesday either. I think something needs to change. I think with Weghorst, I think a lot of teams are sussed out the way we play now with Weghorst up top. It's very one-dimensional when we go up to the final third of the pitch. And I think Ten Hag must be looking at it now. Finn has said 1-1 on Wednesday as well. And John has said 1-0 Wednesday. But
Sheffield Wednesday aren't playing.
Well, they keep costing me every...
Oh, well, they've I don't think they've won in...
while I live in Sheffield,
five games the other day, so yeah.
They cost me my accumulator every week in a row for the last month, I think. Connor's said 2-0. I believe, hopefully United. Just before we go, we've got a couple of.
Oh my goodness! This is breaking news. Breaking news. The chap who's just commented. I assume it's a chap. Completely assume there, but this winners guy, I formally concede the title. Our modelling no longer works. He's been coming in every day telling us that we're going to win the title, despite the fact that most sane Manchester United fans gave up on that idea.
And by the way, Man U winners, we have also criticised Ten Hag substitutions today as well, just so that we're behind Ten Hag, but we accept he made mistakes today.
Absolutely, guys. But just before we go for the evening, is there anything you guys want to promote, or your social media channels or platforms, anything like that?
Obviously I'm there at @Kermo2, and we're just a frequent. I did produce my first article this week as well. I did it for what was it? Red Devil Women. So so I put an article about women's team, how we can get more outvolge. So if you follow Red Devil Women on Twitter, it'll show the article was published now if you want to give that a read. So yeah, there we go.
Brilliant. Yeah, if you put the link up, I'll definitely have a read of that. In regards to someone's put, can we promote? Connor's put, can we promote Barry's hair?
I'd love you to. It'd be amazing if we could promote it. I've been trying to promote my hair to grow for some time. I can't afford new hair like Wayne Rooney, so that's unfortunate. Tony's just asked you how you eat your burger.
I mean, it depends what burger we're talking about here. Are we talking about a cheeseburger, a Big Mac? Okay, so cheeseburger, hands like this, not with a knife and fork. That's weird. I don't know why people eat anything like that. Hot dogs,
any burgers get eaten with a knife and fork in your house.
I think I'd be disowned if I did that, to be honest. I mean, with a Big Mac, I do separate them. My mouth can't hack the whole thing in one. So I snap it like that. So just to
at least he doesn't use cutlery, though, Barry.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I don't think any.
There you go, Connor. You don't need cutlery. Just make it half and half and eat it that way.
Apparently, I need to move something down. My light is shining into Finn's eyes. Bless him. It's good that you finally seen the light, though, Finn. That's a good thing. Listen, I don't have any socials to promote as such. My name's there. If people want to follow me, feel free. I'm not fussed one way or the other, to be brutally honest with you. What I care about is this channel, which we're obviously trying to build up back to its old Twitter following. So share it, get it out with your mates, do all that sort of stuff, and come and join us again on Tuesday. On Tuesday night, we have got Daniel, not Dan. Got to get these two together. But Daniel will be hosting a Lone Watch show. That is the plan. So he will be here on Tuesday, and then we are looking at another preview match and a review of the Brentford game on Thursday. We're reviewing the Brentford game and then taking a look at the weekend's action as well. And then I'll be back at the weekend for another one of these match reaction shows. So that would be absolutely wonderful if you could come and join us and get some more people to come and jump on the All for United bandwagon, because it's a nice wagon to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you can follow me on my @ @tone_995. Please follow All for United channels, both men and females, on YouTube and Twitter. There's a lot of content coming out, as Barry said. I'm still intrigued by this debate regarding the burgers, how people eat. I've never met anyone really who, even my 90-year-old grandma, eats burgers with her hands. You know what I mean?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
he was so confident earlier on this season that he went, I'm going to put a poll on about this. And he put a poll on asking how people would eat their burgers. And I'm pretty sure it was something like 92% of people would only eat a burger with their hands. There was only about 7% of, 150 people who would agree with him. It's absolutely mad. I don't get it. I love Connor to pieces. He's one of my favourite people in the world. But what the blazes he do? I can't get my head around it. The purpose of a knife and fork for a burger, just squash the bloody thing and eat it. I can't do it. I can't. I feel the same way about Connor's burger eating as I do with Root Red Horse. I just don't see the point.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
The Vegos burger.
Finn's just.
Well, as I said in the social chat the other day, yeah.
Whoa. Pizza and soup. I'd love to see you eat soup with a knife and fork. I'm guessing that's not really I'm guessing that's not really soup. You need a ladle. If you ask Connor, he knows what one of those is.
Brilliant, guys. But anyway, the burger debate will still go on. But unfortunately today, we don't get the points, but we look positives. We look for all the positives, as we always do in All for United. But it's bye from me, Barry and John, and we'll see you in the next one.
I just got that from him.
And him.
Take care.
Take care, guys.